everybody, today I'm going to be talking about my VHS collection. Now if you're new here, consider something to ring the bell. So I've talked about VHSs on this channel before, like when I did the review of the original trilogy of Star Wars on VHS. And I kind of wanted to do a little bit more of an in-depth look at all of my VHS tapes. Now, I don't have the most quantity, but I think I have pretty good quality. So yeah, let's get started. So the first one I want to talk about are the Disney VHSs. So I have Little Mermaid here, and a lot of people think that they are worth something when in reality they're not. So I kind of want to get that myth out of the way, but who knows, maybe VHSs will go up in value in the next 10 20 years. But I got a version that people think is worth something because it has like a little bit of a phallic symbol. One of the earlier releases of The Little Mermaid, and I really like this movie. I think this was during the renaissance of Disney when they made like really good movies, not compared to now. Yeah, I really like this one, and I just really have nostalgia for VHSs more than DVDs in my opinion. Like, I grew up way more with VHSs compared to DVDs when I was younger. So, because like my grandma has a whole bunch of them at her house. Like, it's insane. Like, she has the most VHSs out of anyone I know. So, Little Mermaid is a pretty good movie. So the next one I got recently because I don't see this very often. It is Thumbelina. So, I know this isn't Disney, but I don't see this very often. Now, it's not worth anything, but like, I feel like the Don Bluth movies, like, I know some people associate Don Bluth with Warner Brothers and how they make their movies. Honestly, like, I always prefer Don Bluth movies to Warner Brothers animated movies because I almost consider Don Bluth his own thing because, like, he just made so many good ones. Now, I don't think Thumbelina is one of his greatest films, but it's just so obscure. This was like only like $1 at the antique store near me, and yeah, so I don't see this one very often. This hasn't been rewound yet, but yeah, so this one's kind of like an obscure one, but I wanted to share that one. The next one I have is Dumbo. This is my most nostalgic Disney movie, like by far. Like, I would watch this all the time, especially this copy. I think this is the same copy I've had for like my whole life. And I just really love Dumbo. Like Dumbo is just so nostalgic to me. I just feel like out of all the Disney films, Dumbo is the one that I've grown up with the most. Dumbo, there are some stuff that has not aged that well, to be fair. Like the crows.
What's cooking around here? What's the good news? What's frying, boy? Just look down here, brother.
And prepare yourself for a shot.
Yeah, they're just the crows back there. Honestly, like, compared to, like, racist stuff that Disney made in, like, the 40s and 30s and 50s, this is pretty tame for that. So, I didn't really realize that the crows were problematic until I got older, and I haven't really thought about it in a while. But other than that, this movie is really good. This is the one I'm most nostalgic with. Alright, now we're getting to the interesting ones. So, this one is not technically playable, but I needed to talk about it, and I have before. It is Song of the South. Now, I mentioned Song of the South in some of my videos before, actually a lot of them. This film is very controversial. This film, it has a lot of history, and recently they closed down Splash Mountain, which I'm still pissed off about. But, this is a European copy. It's on PAL format, so unfortunately I can't play it on a US VHS player. Do I think it's that racist? I don't think so. Like, I think the hate is a little much for this. Like, yeah, it's still, like, there's still stuff that hasn't aged well in it, but, like, I just feel like the controversy kind of overshadows the movie itself. But, like, with the animated parts I really love, but the only thing is that the anime parts only take like 25 minutes of the movie.
Now look here, man, it's gonna fall off. I ain't gonna one more step. No, stop, one more step. No, you don't. This is one of his tricks. But you nothing. That rabbit just making a fool out of you, you fool.
He is?
Of course he is. There ain't no such thing as a laughing place. Of course not. Come on now, let's take it home.
Which kind of sucks because, like, when people associate Song of the South, they usually have the controversy of this movie and the slavery aspect. but like I just really love like the animated characters and stuff, and I really wish they had more of that. So on the South, this one is a European PAL format. Down here is a little bit of a special one. So yeah, so this might not seem that exciting because it's a just a blank VHS tape, but actually this is a VHS version of Song of the South. So this one isn't playable, but I made this one playable because I've talked about the Song of the South DVD before, and what I did is that I recorded from the DVD to a VHS. So now I actually do have a playable version of the Song of the South on a VHS player, which I really think is really cool because, like, I mean, this DVD is not official in any way at all, but, like, I just like that I was able to convert this to a VHS, so the VHS is a little bit more nostalgic. I just feel like the movie is not that racist, but it's a couple of things that haven't aged well. But yeah, so overall, that's kind of like a segment that I did. Yeah, so Song of the South, I think the hate is a little bit too much for it, but it's not even that great of a film. So another one I have is Fantasia. So Fantasia, I used to think that this movie was kind of boring, but man, like as I've gotten older, this is so good. Like it's just like, I mean, like, I almost consider it not even a kid's movie. Like, I just wish that the Fantasia series went further than this. I mean, they did have Fantasia 2000, but that one had painful celebrity cameos.
Transformations, fraud, dismemberment, rip-off.
This original one is one of my favorite Disney movies. I feel like this movie is a lot better for adults than it is for kids because, I mean, like, they do have, like, animated segments which can be appealing to kids, but, like, as I've gotten older, like, the fact that they mix classical music to these animated segments, like, I just love it so much. And I got this at the same antique store as I did with Thumbelina. It's such a good movie. Like, I think it's one of my favorite Disney movies. Like, it just seems like it's not really appreciated enough. Yeah, it's 2 hours long, which is actually kind of crazy. And one of my favorite moments in this is Night on Bald Mountain, which is awesome with Chernabog or the devil or whatever. But my favorite segment is Ave Maria. So basically, it's a scene where after the Night on Bald Mountain, these people with like lanterns and stuff, they like just slowly, it's all in one shot, and they slowly walk, and like the music, it's so good. Yeah, Walt Disney had some faults, but he perfected that scene specifically. And I actually heard that there was like, it took like 3 different attempts to actually make that scene, because I remember there was like one time where they couldn't do it, and then they tried to do it and there was an earthquake. That shot of just like the lanterns and people walking, it's just like, it doesn't seem that much, but in reality the classical music just makes it so much better with the classical music. I'm sorry, I'm fanboying on that scene, but I think that's probably one of the best scenes Disney's ever made. And this is one of the best movies I think Disney has ever made. So, yeah, sorry, I've been gushing on Fantasia, but yeah, this is a really good movie. Another one I have is the opposite of that, Space Jam. So, Space Jam, I didn't really see this movie up until recently, and a lot of people have really nostalgic, like, memories from this. It's just so 90s that I gotta love it. Like, it's just like, it's so much fun, and I like how it doesn't really take itself too seriously. With Space Jam and A New Legacy, the Space Jam 2, they took themselves way too seriously. And I just think that the goofiness of Space Jam, of the original, that's what Space Jam should be. The thing is, though, is that my least favorite aspect of it, and it's kind of a big problem, is Bugs Bunny's voice.
I'll be with you in a second, folks, after I finish with Nature Boy here.
I'm not a fan of it. Like, I still think that Mel Blanc is the best voice for Bugs Bunny. I mean, the other people aren't bad, but I mean, I love Billy West. He's done a lot of roles that I love, but it's just that voice, I don't really care for. It's like, that's probably my biggest problem with it. It's starting to grow on me a little bit, but I still think that the voice it's kind of hard to ignore, but it's starting to grow on me a little bit. Other than that, it's a really good movie. It just doesn't take itself too seriously. So yeah, I have two trilogies. So the first one I want to talk about is something that I already have talked about with its own video, is the Star Wars VHS trilogy. So I really wanted to own the original Star Wars movies because I just hate how much they changed, especially with the original trilogy. But I just hate that George Lucas changed so many aspects to those movies, like with the awful CGI. Yeah, so I have all three of these movies, and I got the earliest possible releases I can, because like a lot of these movies have changed like constantly, like they change all the time. So I got the ones, I think, when was this? Yeah, 1986. I just really love these releases. We got Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Like, it's just like, I wanted to get the earliest version possible because, like, I feel like these are going to get up in value at some point because, like, especially how bad the sequel trilogy turned out. Like, a lot of people want to revisit these movies, and I mean, there's still some special edition changes that I do like, but the most of them they suck. These are the 1986 versions, and, yeah, the cover art is not my favorite with, like, the red label and stuff, but, like, I just really love Star Wars, man. Like, it's so good. It's just some of the best movies of all time. So, yeah, so there's all three of them. My favorite is Return of the Jedi, even though a lot of people say Empire Strikes Back, which that one's really good, too. But, yeah, so here's the original Star Wars original trilogy. So, yeah. Alright, the last trilogy and the last VHSs I have, it's something that I haven't really talked about before. Now, I've maybe talked about it in another video, but not really that much. So, these are the Indiana Jones trilogy on VHS. So, oh yeah, I just realized I'm wearing Raiders of the Lost Ark. But yeah, so these are the VHS releases of the original three movies. And, like, I wanted to kind of share a little bit more of an in-depth type of thing because actually, you know what? I did mention Indiana Jones with the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny review, which I hated that movie. That movie, like, every time I think about it, it pisses me off.
You stole it. Then you stole it.
And then I stole it. It's called capitalism.
I try to ignore Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. I just don't see them as canon. But yeah, so I got all three of the original movies. I kind of wanted to share my thoughts on each of them because they vary. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite. Like, it just has that perfect mix of, like the anti-hero of Indiana Jones, because a lot of people consider him a superhero. I consider him more of an anti-hero because, like, that's what I love about the character, is that he's not always fighting for the greater good. Like, sometimes he's, like, wanting, like, these, artifacts for himself, or to do, like, archaeology and stuff. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite. This is the one I have the most nostalgia for, because, like, when I first saw this movie, my mom had to cover my eyes a lot. Like, this is when PG ratings were way different compared to what they are today. So, yeah, this is rated PG, and, I would say this is not, like, as traumatizing as something that I'll mention later. Or my mom had to cover my eyes for the airplane scene when that guy, his head cut off by the propeller. And then she had to cover my eyes for the face melting scene. Like, I'm like, how was this even back then as, like, PG rating? was insane. So at the time, like, you knew that there was some risk going in, but I'm just like, this is not PG now. But yeah, so Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite. And then the next one I want to talk about is Temple of Doom. A lot of people like this one. I don't like it. Like, yeah, it has some aspects of like the original Indiana Jones trilogy, but it's so dark and it's not adventurous enough. Like, I just feel like it also kind of drags in a way too, because like there's some scenes that are like action filled that I do like the minecart and like the bridge where Indiana Jones cuts it in half and then like they fall. It just feels like some parts drag. Like, it's like once they get to the palace, the movie stops, and then like when they Indiana Jones finds that big guy who gets smashed in like that roll thing, that's when it starts speeding up a little bit. But like, I just feel like this movie, it's a solid third. Like, it's just like, it's not my favorite. And I feel like it's just too dark and not adventurous enough. Because with Raiders of the Lost Ark, like, yeah, it did have some dark moments, but it was still, like, I don't know if lighthearted is the right word, but, like, it's more adventurous and more uplifting. This is just dark, and this film is insane, though. Like, I did see this movie before this one. I actually heard that, like, they didn't even know where to put this movie because it was so brutal in the rating system. I did hear that they almost were gonna put it at an R. That's when the PG-13 rating was born. But yeah, so Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, I'm not a fan of it. One that I am a fan of, however, is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So, perfect combination of like funny and comedic moments, but also like adventurous and dark. And I feel like this is kind of an underappreciated one because like Sean Connery and Harrison Ford just work great together.
I told you! Don't call me Junior.
Like, when I first like heard of this movie, I'm like, really? They're doing Sean Connery like James Bond? But it works. Like, it's just so good at what it is. So yeah, so Last Crusade I think is very underappreciated. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on each of the original trilogy. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I wanted to talk about my VHS collection today, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.